I guess we should get started. First story is collect a list of potential services suited for our web server and data storage and compare their pros and cons to determine which is best.
Okay. Should we do this like on the count of three?
Let's see. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, that's fine.
All
One,
right.
2,
Three.
Okay.
So
I selected a 2 just because all we need to do is evaluate and select the services, and as far as selecting them goes, we already kind of chose AWS. So there's only a few things really to look at. So I don't think it's gonna be too complicated. So I figure it's a pretty simple, easy story.
yeah,
Brooks, you
I
had a high number.
similarly
What's your
think.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is Dan. I was gonna just say I agree with you. We already kind of settled on AWS, and I think that's what we know we want. So the selection process will probably just be maybe comparing a competitor, but it should be pretty simple to determine what we want to do.
That's fine. I obviously am the outlier on this one. So there are several services that AWS also provides, certain technologies that are available to us. I don't think that we're to measure the level of difficulty or how long it is going to take. I believe we were supposed to measure the importance. And by that, I would assume that determining the best technologies and services available through AWS, that we would need that to be done pretty much before anything.
Gotcha.
So that was my determination.
It's important.
Okay. Yeah, I believe we're supposed to be based on either time frame or project story points based on difficulty. Is kind of what the commonplace is.
Okay. All right.
And then you order it afterwards based on sequence.
Okay.
Shall we redraw?
Sure.
All right. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
3.
Oh, too late.
Okay. I've got the same reason as last time. Dan, you went up, and Devin, you stayed about the same, I think.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a fairly important step, but at the same
True.
time, we have kind of already selected what needs to be done on there. So I kind of felt like that was kind of meeting in the middle.
Sure. And I do feel like, I guess you're right that Brooks was right, that the AWS does have a number of different options as far as plans and stuff to go with, so maybe there's a little there too. So,
Yeah.
Okay, draw number 3, unless you have more input. Anyone?
Oh, I'm good.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
We're getting pretty close.
You have to get unanimity in this, or is it?
Well, you don't have to like randomly guess anonymity, but you do have to all agree that you're willing to support a single decision.
Okay.
I know one of the recommendations was to opt for a higher one, just because I guess according to this person's opinion, a lot of engineers try to push it faster, and realistically, it takes longer than they anticipate sometimes.
Okay.
So I'm willing to support the 13 if that's what y'all feel like is appropriate.
Yeah, I would support that too.
I'm good with 13. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's put the
13.
13, 13. All right. So let's go on to the next point.
All right. Once services have been chosen, creation of accounts and the setup of the services, such as account settings, server and network configuration, and user account creation will be done. Okay.
Can a number be reused?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
You can use any number you want, yeah. Let me try to understand this story though. That's you have to create the accounts, okay. That's part of the setup, I get that. Servers and network and stuff like that kind of steps into some of the other areas. I feel like that's not part of the story,
I could
unless
see
I'm
that.
missing something.
No, I can see how this kind of covers the other ones.
So maybe we should take this server and network part of it out of that,
Well, yeah, maybe.
or leave the server section. The network part, you got to select your regions for AWS. So I'd say maybe regions versus network.
Maybe take the server part out, but leave the account settings and network configuration, because the account settings are for the cloud service, and then the network settings are like firewall configuration in the in the cloud service and all that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready to roll?
Yep.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right.
Ann or Devin?
Well, I was looking at that and I thought because it is so overarching, and I mean, once you kind of have that built up, other things in comparison, like selecting and installing the US or evaluating services, are a lot lower on the scale. Because this, to me, it felt like because this one feels like it's a lot more actual creation of the thing.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, on my side, I think having set it up, it's not like the most complicated thing in the world, but depending on what service you're using, and if it's the first time that you're setting up, it can be pretty intense.
Okay.
I had to, do some setup and then start over and do it again, and there's a little bit more to it than just pressing a button, even though it's really close to that. The problem is it can go a little wonky if you don't know exactly what you're doing the first time. So
Okay.
So it's like when you start doing the advanced settings on your router.
yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Anyway, but I would be willing to go down to 13 actually, because in the general,
I mean,
is bad.
well, let's go back and revote. I mean, I've hearing some of that. I might want to go a little higher myself.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Brooks, you got delayed there.
I did. That would have been mine. I typed it, but I had a pop-up on my computer. Apologize.
All right, so we kind of oscillated between 13 and 20, and I think we probably would continue to do that. So I'm willing to support either one of those.
I agree.
I can support 20.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can be done within that time frame. So
Is it going to be 20 then? Everyone, do you agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
I think so.
All right, cool.
Okay. So based on the needs of the programming stack, development environment, and end users, an appropriate operating system will be chosen. Okay. So we're looking at
I personally don't think choosing the operating system is too hard. I mean, it's important, but we're probably going to stick with the Linux-based of some sort, just because it's less overhead cost, and you can do a pretty good job securing it down and having less services and stuff running and all that stuff. So I mean, all you really got to choose is which Linux platform to go from, and
And I would say like the programming stack pretty much determines what you're going to run.
Right.
It's almost a trivial thing.
okay,
All right. You guys ready?
ready.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, I actually was the upward this time.
So,
So I just selected 5 because I'm not quite as familiar with the programming stack part of that, and how much that ties into selecting an OS. And so just not being very familiar with how much that would take. Selecting an OS is relatively easy, but I'd have to actually look through that myself and figure out how that ties in.
It's really a matter of selecting what services or technologies you want installed on your server through AWS.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
that's going to be dependent also on how you want to build your application. So For example, if you want to use Node and Angular, obviously that's going to predetermine the operating system that you're going to.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's
So it's
kinda
just selecting the one that has all the services pre-installed, basically, to save you some work.
Pretty much.
Yeah, not quite.
Yes and no.
But it's kind of like when when you're selecting a computer, right? You would have to choose what computer to get based on what kind of task you want to perform, which determines what software you want, right? So if you are dead set on running like TurboTax and TurboTax, or say TurboTax 2016, and that'll only run on a particular operating system, you're locked into that OS, right?
Gotcha.
And this is kind of the same thing. It's like some of these programming stacks make development really easy, especially if you have experience in a particular language or with a particular technology, but they will only run on a particular kind of server, or only efficiently on a particular type of server. So that's where this kind of comes from.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right, you want to redraw?
Redraw.
All right.
One, two, three. Oh boy, I just got landslided. I mean, if someone feels like they can do that in a time frame of a 1, I'll support that. But if it was me, I'd probably have to choose a 3 to give myself time to research it and make sure I understand it.
Yeah,
It really could be done with a 1.
I'd support up to a 2, but that's about it. So.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to take an average though, so.
No averages.
Oh no, I'm just saying I would cheat it up to a 2. Like I could see where,
Sure.
if you want to be thorough.
Like
course,
something might
of
go
course.
funky. You can never account for when errors might happen or whatever. So
Yeah.
I get what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Exactly.
So are we all in agreement? It's a 3 or a 1?
I'm in agreement with you actually at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's fine.
What?
All right, cool.
Okay.
2's good. 2 it is.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. The selected operating system will be installed or downloaded as a pre-configured image. Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Why is that even its own story?
Well,
Because I think it's its own story, because you could try to assemble that yourself, but a lot of these packages are already pre-created, so just specifying that makes it a little bit easier to steer the project.
it still has to be done.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Okay.
let's
That's like a very minimal story. I'm ready to vote.
All right.
All right, I'm ready to.
1, 2, 3. I was tempted to put the 0.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a 1. That's cool. 1 it is.
All right.
All right, stack installation. The development stack services will be installed to enable development, testing, and production on the server.
So
referring to the development stack, are you referring to all the different services for web, database, etc.?
pretty much.
Or is this okay?
Yeah, or if you're going to be doing like just different web services, then each of those has to be, configured.
Okay.
This one, I think, I have a higher number in mind.
Yeah. What services do you think y'all? How many services do you think we need to install and get configured?
Well, I mean, you have to have. All right, so you have to have a web server, which that's usually Apache, and it's pre-installed, and that's easy.
Right.
You have to install like a Node package manager. You have to install something to keep the service running. You have to usually have a database with its database daemon, and then you have to have just different things that get put into the stack just to kind of keep everything talking.
Okay.
The big thing on this for me is the configuration side of it, where you're like You're making it so that, for example, your development environment can have um, the right permissions to execute code on your server, so that you can make connections to remote ports on your server. Um, because even though like you may have a firewall or whatever on the machine itself, but like the service will not respond to requests unless they're allowed specifically. So unless you want to run all of your code like on the machine itself, which is kind of a pain, you have to open up holes in that. Setting up user accounts for different like for each developer so that you can have some accountability for what's going on. That's kind of a thing. Yeah, I would say that this is probably where the bulk of like if you're an IT professional working on a project, this would probably be where the bulk of that is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Everyone ready to vote? I don't see your cursor, Dan.
Oops, I'm on the wrong spot. There we go. All right, we ready to rock?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, okay.
I just I guess after the long explanation of everything to install, I'm realizing more and more how much I've not done this on a production level. It would personally take me a little time to get this done right and undo and redo stuff as I mess it up in the process.
I completely buy that. It's it's intense.
Okay. Well, hearing that, I could definitely support either the 40 or the 100 because I was just thinking that, okay, so this is going to be a lot of work, but it also sounded like a kind of a lot of, what's it my friend call it? I forget what my friend calls it, watching loading screens. And I don't know if that's necessarily correct, but
Sometimes.
It's probably that too.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going by time frame, you can't speed up a loading screen. You got to wait for it.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I would defer to both of you because you guys are the IT side of it, and I have experience doing it, but Hello.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm not really sure why it decided to do that.
That's fine.
It's all good, man.
Could be a limitation. Happens.
You're still recording?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
still recording, so we're all good.
Happy day.
Cool.
Okay.
So
We're getting ready to
we're ready to revote.
revote.
Yeah, I was just saying I would be willing to support whatever Nathan and Devin would choose as the IT staff.
Okay. Well, I guess 3, 2, 1, go. Okay.
All right. 100 it is.
All right.
All
I
right.
can support that.
Sounds good.
That's here.
Awesome. All right.
Now, the next section is configure primary server and backup servers. First bullet point is secure server by removing and disabling servers is not needed. I think that's a lot easier than installing everything for the stack. Just an important step in securing the actual servers themselves and removing any pinholes that would otherwise be open.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So something that needs to be done, kind of important, but not like largely time consuming, right?
I'd say medium, but not too crazy. You know, take a
Okay.
little while, but yeah, not hard.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Ready to vote?
ready?
1, 2, 3.
Oh.
Wow, that's pretty close. Devin, any reason you think it's less time than 20?
Because I thought you said it didn't take that much time, so
Compared to 100, it's not much.
it's not much compared to 100, no. But I would
this is my
very
estimate, of
willingly
course.
support 20 then.
All right, sweet.
Okay.
20 it is. Put 20 on that guy. And then-
I wonder if we'll ever get any of these to be exactly the same across the board.
Not with me here.
Did you mention if you had a large team?
Oh man.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
All right. The next one would be install services for website database development.
So I feel like that's actually a complete duplicate of Stack installation. Now that I understand that part,
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah.
I think it is. Should we just eliminate that?
I think we can eliminate that one.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Okay. The Scrum team members will need to set up their IDEs because it's really important what color your IDE is.
It has to be like a dark background with white lettering.
Well, you're a sociopath if it's white. So,
Or gray lettering, whatever.
all right. Yes, this should be
I think
hopefully this is unanimous.
yes.
1, 2, 3, go. Really, Dan?
Dan, you like already have an IDE practically set up by now that you
Okay,
can like
so-
just.
So the perspective I was coming from is if you were starting from like bare floor factory and you had to set up your
Okay.
development machine.
Yeah, but we don't. We're not.
I can see that if you had to go and purchase the computer, install the OS, and so forth. Yes,
Right?
like I
Yeah.
can see that if you're going that route. Is that the route you're going?
That's kind of what I was getting at. Is
Yeah,
like
but we're setting up the IDE. So let's assume the computer's already set up. So how long does it take you to download Xcode? How long does it take you to download Atom? How long is it? Like, it doesn't take you any time at all.
I'd say it'd take at least a full day to be completely set up with your ID.
Are you serious?
Really?
You're crazy, man.
You are very picky with your IDEs. I guess it makes it a better rest of the project if you do it right the first time.
Okay. Well, I mean, Devin had one, so I guess we can all pretty much. Is everybody okay with a one?
I'm okay with a one personally.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Dan, you could take some extra overtime to catch up if that's too
Yeah,
short
man.
for you.
So the user would like to be able to create a login, and those credentials be securely stored.
They better be securely stored.
So
So these are each of the different interfaces we're looking at.
Yep, these are the interfaces. So this is just a piece of functionality that that would need to be included.
Okay.
Clearly, this creating a login form and shooting those over to the database
Mhm.
hashed is not entirely too crazy. It shouldn't take a lot of effort to do.
But it is critical.
It is extremely critical.
You have to
I
get
think-
it right.
I think
Yeah,
establishing the
You definitely have to get it right. So there is some time and thought that it needs to go into it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be doesn't have to consume a good
And
amount of
and
time.
just going from, I'm assuming by the time you get to designing the interfaces, you've already gotten your database pretty well established, and some parts of the back end part of this. So you're really just designing the user interface with some forms.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
that's
this
pretty
is
much it.
assuming
But-
that the other.
But this is
steps
a
have already been
story,
done.
so basically we just it because it's not very specific, which is what stories are.
Right.
It's just it's a complete kind of image of what
Mhm.
should be taking place in the interface.
Sure. Of course.
So, you guys ready to vote on this one?
I think so.
I think so.
1, 2, 3, go. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, the reason for my 3 is it shouldn't take a massive amount of time to put together a form where the user can create a login and being able to we're not worried about so much the API or how the interface communicates with the database.
Mhm.
We're just concerned about the fact that the user would need to be able to insert their login credentials.
Are we voting on time or criticality?
Time.
Oh,
Time,
time. Okay.
Yeah.
time and difficulty.
Based on points, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time and time.
I went a little higher, just thinking of the fact that we need to have it done securely during the whole input and transportation of the data. So you have to add on the encryption and make sure that's done throughout the process of input to down to being stored and back.
Yeah, I mean, I could go higher on mine. I was thinking of putting a 5, just because it is so important that you get your your salts and your hashes and everything just right and put in the right places so that it's not compromised later. But
Right, but
I
also
think
there are plenty of resources out there that
that's what I was gonna say.
will be
Exactly.
able to help you get it done rather quickly.
Yeah,
And if
there's
you've done it before, it shouldn't take you
too long.
too
yeah.
long.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go next. Yep.
So, everybody ready to vote again?
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go. I was trying to compromise, honestly. So,
Yeah, I could support a 5.
I'll support a 5. Yeah.
Okay.
5 it is done. Okay, next, the user needs to reset their password.
I mean, this is probably pretty similar to the one above. It's just going to be you got to input your email address or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you click a link in there to go to a reset page.
Yeah, whatever your mechanism you want to have is should
okay.
be easier than setting it up, but also kind of important that you get it right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Ready? 1,
Yep.
2, 3, go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Brooks, yours is really short. What do you think there?
It's not. I'm not going to say it's trivial, but it's definitely not something that I would imagine would take too long to be able to
To get done.
set up the ability to email out, which is also something that would have to be included in the services.
Yeah. True.
But you would also setting up an ability to email out a password reset link to a user is not something that would be shouldn't take very long to do.
True.
There's
And the
it's pretty
forms,
standard.
the forms are all going to get pretty easy from here once you've done the first form. So
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first form definitely way more difficult than this one. This is a simple form page that you're brought to from a website.
okay.
So
One more voting round.
all right, 1, 2, 3, go. All right, 2 it is. I can compromise it too.
All right, cool.
Okay.
2's up.
All right, the user would like to be able to search for websites or organizations.
Okay.
That just sounds like you're going to basically, to be effective, probably integrate a Google search into the page.
I believe that these organizations and websites would be, well, yeah, there would be some integration with Google search, especially if you're the first one establishing an origin for that website or organization.
Right.
But obviously, it would also need to search the database for existing organizations and websites.
Okay, you're talking about internally
also-
searching. Okay.
This would also need to include the ability to search for different, different formats that the organization or website is typed in, right? So
Right.
if you're excluding or misspells or excluding certain characters, things of that nature. So someone might search for McDonald's with an apostrophe S. Someone might search for it with just an S. So it can't be an exact match. It won't always be an exact match. So it's definitely something you have to take into consideration if you want your application to be versatile that way. So,
Yeah. And searches have to be pretty, at least for me, I need a search engine that does a good job of allowing me to use quotation marks, pluses, minuses, ands, and ors, and so forth to really narrow down what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So you have to build all that logic into it.
Yeah, there would be certain characters that we, probably want to shy away from. just so that we can maintain security and we don't get any sort of SQL injections that
True.
Yeah.
come into play.
Yeah. If you sanitize it, it'll be alright.
Yeah. Obviously, there's sanitation, searching, comparisons that have to be made between Google and your database. So it would definitely take some time to configure all that logic, link everything, hook everything up to Google, and then perform adequate queries to the database.
Okay.
All right. You ready to vote?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay.
One,
two,
two, three.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. Okay, Devin, you are really confident. What happened?
Well, setting something up to do different searches isn't necessarily super complicated, I would think, especially, I don't know, I've done some Java, and it would just be like user input gets inserted into the search, and then it would just pull up from the user database what it was looking for.
Okay.
It's way more complicated than that, but
Yeah.
I understand your point. Yeah.
Okay. Because, I mean, well, okay, so I can go higher on this, obviously, because you guys are saying it's higher. So what do you guys say about it being more difficult?
Well, there's just more time involved. I think I went conservatively high, but there's not an option for 30. So you not only have to sanitize, you have to keep in mind any potential threats that you pose to allowing unauthorized access to your database.
Okay.
You have to link it to Google, and then you have to, not only when you're doing the comparisons, but the mismatch comparisons to
Mhm.
find the correct organization within your database. It's in SQL. It's not entirely like, oh well, SQL or Mongo or whatever database structure we choose. Look for something that looks like this. It's not entirely like that. So
Okay. So you're
it
just saying
requires a
it
little
can be
bit
a
more.
lot more time consuming than what I'm imagining because of
It's
all the
just a little
different
bit more
little
time-consuming.
nuances that can go into that. Because I mean, you can probably nitpick at it forever and never have it completely right. I mean, am I right with that?
Yeah, and it's again, like I said before, it depends on how versatile you want that search option to be.
Okay. Then I can
Yeah.
easily support what you guys are saying there with your 40s that because it
Does
can
anybody-
take so much time.
Does anybody disagree with my description and things like that?
So the only thing that kind of like I envision differently is, if you're going to search for an organization, what I would imagine is like a combo box, right? And so you could either click on it and show the list of all the organizations, or you would type a partial and it would pop up like, partial completion on the top 10 or whatever. And then you would just pick one from that list based on your partial input. So I think that that's a lot easier than trying to do like the fuzzy logic search. And I also think that, when you're talking about like tying into Google, I don't know if you'd really need to do. I don't really understand how you would tie into Google because, like, you would just either find it in the list or you'd select add something new or whatever.
Well, there would be. You don't want obviously. Basically, what I was trying to eliminate is the different versions of the same of the spelling of the
So
same
you
word.
wanna canonicalize the name of the organization or whatever. So if somebody tries to put something in new, you would like throw a Google search at it, and then pull
Yeah.
back the title of the first
Exactly.
website or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of how I was looking at it. I wanted to eliminate the possibility for having, the same organization in the database multiple times, just with
Yeah.
different spellings.
I got
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So because the whole point is to link people to the same website or the same organization, and to create this this tree, right? At the whole
exactly.
point. So I want to make sure that when we do display that tree, that everybody's linked to the same organization. They're not linked to not 35 different McDonald's out there, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's just a little bit more logic I think that will have to go into that. But like I said, I think I rated mine conservatively high.
I hear you.
Because like I said, there's no 30. So
All
you guys
right.
want to vote again? Happy to.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's a 30.
Yeah, that's kind of where if I could put a 30, I could. I would
I'd say
have.
we just go to conservatively high and just go with the 40. I mean, as you break down, you don't want your product owner to say, "Why did this take longer?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm good with that. All right. So the next one, the user would like to be able to easily locate the function that allows them to attach their origin story to a website or organization.
So basically, you got to find a very nice, convenient little upload or edit, add my story button.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically the entire functionality surrounding that.
Yeah.
How the whole input form for that, and then being able to easily manage and navigate that portion of the site.
Okay. Sounds easy enough.
Yep. All right, you guys ready to vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Did you have some more input, Dan?
Well, I mean, you explained it pretty well. The thing that I think gets complicated is if you put your information up first. So the first scenario that I'm thinking through is you go ahead and submit your information. It's an inline form. It's just a text box. It's super easy, right?
Mhm.
The second scenario is a little more complex. You put in your information, you exclude your story, you come back the next time and you want to add it. That's the scenario that I think is more complex.
So if they want to, you're talking about editing.
Well, I'm talking about so you establish your place on the family tree, let's say, right? But then you want to put in your information about your origin story at a later date. So you go back to your family tree entry, and normally when you're looking at it, it would have I would envision like a more polished view than the data entry form would. So you have to have a way to get back to that form. So that's slightly more complicated than just doing just the inline process. That's
fine. So that would I would propose then that would be an additional story.
Oh, okay.
Because you'd have a separate edit button versus an add button.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could go either way. Yeah.
But you are also talking about, or what he's trying to say is, it's going to automatically save the work that you put in before it actually puts it into the website, right?
But yeah. So okay. So you could imagine like an intake form when you're filling out your user profile the first time you go to a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
That inline form is usually pretty slick, pretty easy, straightforward. You can't get a lot wrong with it. But if you imagine okay, well, I want to go back and edit my user profile later. Sometimes that can be a little bit more complicated. So yeah, I don't know if it needs to be a second story or if we can finagle it into the same story. But I just think that if it's in the same story, it raises the complexity and that makes it a little bit longer.
Sure.
I mean, I could see the same story with an add/edit button, and it just has to smartly just decide if it's something you've never done before. It adds it. If you have one that's already there, or you already have an account established, it goes and edits it instead.
From a database standpoint, that doesn't sound too crazy difficult.
Right.
In my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's like more the user flow, right?
That's more of a user flow thing, which fits within obviously this section that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think that would, in my opinion, I would put that as another story, just being able to edit your place in a tree.
Okay.
So basically, it would just capture all of the data that you've already placed in it, obviously from the database, and then you can add to it, edit it, do whatever you need to do.
Add or edit their origin story after having
Entered it.
Uploaded.
Created their this on tree.
Yep, that works.
Good enough.
Okay, so now that we've separated it, so it's just being able to locate the functionality that allows you to attach your origin to a website or organization.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you guys ready to do
Ready.
this? Go ahead and count us off, Nate.
3.
1, 2, 3, go.
Dang it. Ah, I was in the wrong spot, darn it. It's all right.
Okay. I can. Again, I think I went conservatively high on this one. So
Same. I can support either one.
honestly, I could support. I could support it too. That'd be fine.
Okay,
Agree
sweet.
with that, Devin
I'm okay with that.
or
Yeah.
Nate? Okay.
Yeah, I love
Awesome.
it.
All right, on. Okay, so now the other half, which is the edit, the tree part of it.
What?
Right.
I feel like that'd be pretty easy if you already have a button established that practically does the same thing.
Well, you would have to obviously then choose the story that you want to edit. So,
Mhm.
so just one or two extra steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we ready to rock on this one?
Yep.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go.
Oh.
All right. So some high, some
Oh.
low.
I might be underestimating this one because
I'm all right with it, 3.
I'm not quite 100% sure what the whole purpose of it is, to be honest.
Well, okay. So once you've added your story, and you want to add to it, you want to edit it. You
Okay.
misspelled a word.
Uh-huh.
You attached yourself to the wrong user that
Uh-huh.
introduced you to that website or organization.
Okay.
You will want to edit that. So
Okay.
selecting that specific origin story, you would then retrieve all of the data that they've already entered, retrieve it, and display it in those text boxes for them to be able to add to it.
Okay.
So it's just a few extra steps as opposed to just simply originating your origin story, if that's
Yeah.
Sure.
sounds right.
Okay.
So obviously it's a little bit more complicated. Obviously there's a little bit more database interaction prior to any changes. So I definitely thought it was more closer to a 3.
Okay. I could support a 3.
Yeah, I can totally do 3.
Okay.
All right, cool. 3 it is.
All right, and the user would like to be able to quickly search for other users. So simple search option. Obviously, the developer has free capabilities to choose how or what search criteria is required. So they can search by a username, they can search by an email address. So basically just providing that functionality.
And it can narrow down which services they would like to search within.
Yeah, I think that
I mean-
can also be included.
Yeah,
Would this not overlap with our already existing search? So you search for websites and organizations. I mean, why have multiple different searches?
Well, because they're different functions. So if you're searching for a particular user, that's very different than searching for a product that is has an existing tree. So
It's a lot more difficult to query an entire database for data than it is to query a document.
yeah, for individual user. So yeah, so I think they're very different user stories. Like if I just want to see, think about the scenario, like you go to this website and you're like, hey, I wonder if whatever organization has a tree. That's very different than me saying, hey, I wonder if so-and-so user has a place on this tree.
I wanted to clarify. I think I may have said that wrong. It's
Sure.
not very quick to search an entire database and hopefully find either organization or a user or a website.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot quicker to search in a specific document that contains user data or search in a document that contains organizational website data.
Okay.
So you don't want to query the whole database. You just want to query specific documents based on the search that they're trying to perform.
Yeah.
So,
Correct. All right, so we ready to vote?
yep,
Brooks, do you want to move your cursor up?
I apologize.
No problem. Trouble. I just went through it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, damn. Jeez. All right.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking the filtering options could be complicated.
Okay. I can understand that, and I don't think I personally was taking into consideration searching within a service itself. So
Yeah.
there are some extra filter layers there.
I could come down on something a little bit, but you know, searches are always complicated. Searches are
Yeah, I mean, they can be. They can be. Specifically searching for users, I don't think would be as complicated, but
right.
Well,
I can
depends. I mean,
definitely
you
come
start
up.
looking for users. You try to type in someone's name, you're gonna get 1,000 of them on Facebook with that name.
Well, it would be their username or something more unique. So
Yeah, I think where my complexity came in was if you hadn't chosen a particular service yet, and you were doing a broad search for that user across all services, that would be very.
Well, no, I don't think you'd be searching for users across all broad services. I don't think that's how the query would be constructed. I think it would be constructed based on user data, user information, which
Okay.
would be in its own segment of the database, its own document or
Okay.
table, depending on how we structure that.
All right. Shall we vote again?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Awesome.
Hey!
All right.
Unanimity. That was nice.
Yeah, can we do that more often, guys?
Yeah.
Right?
It makes me wonder how difficult this is if you're a member of the Quorum of the 12.
Oh gosh.
Because they have to be unanimous.
Yeah, well, they got a little trick up their sleeve called Revelation, so
Yeah, that's true.
that usually helps.
The user would like to be able to easily connect their story to other users. That's a primary function of it. So, I mean, I'm thinking this is relatively easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively easy. Basically, when I put the story in there was, you can insert your origin story, and then you obviously want to, if you let's say the user doesn't have the user that introduced you to that service doesn't have an account on our application.
Yeah.
You can obviously edit that and then quickly and easily connect your story to them as the person that introduced you to that service.
Got it. All right.
So
Cool.
it's super simple. Nothing too crazy.
Okay, we ready to roll?
One question on
gosh.
this is, do we want it to have to where, let's say I say that Dan introduced me to such and such, to where Dan can give the okay, like, oh, yes, I did, or just let me have free reign to say that the millionaire in the world is like my neighbor or something?
Well, I think it's okay to say it from your perspective because maybe you got into basketball because of LeBron James. Doesn't mean he played basketball with you as a child, but it does mean like he got you into it. He was the one that inspired you or whatever. So I think that fact checking on it is probably not necessary, especially if we just disclose these are all user contributed stories and some of them may not be true.
Sure. Okay. I'm cool with that.
Okay, so you ready to vote?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
All right, nobody matched. That's cool.
Yeah. I was just playing it on the safe side. I don't want to underestimate. That's my only reason for putting a 5.
Sure.
Okay. I guess my thing is I was thinking of it as not really being broken apart from the rest of the intake form. So if you're doing the intake form, that particular portion of it is really minimal.
Sure. I can see it being a 1.
Okay. I guess I could go with that because it's already part of the edit and part of the search. So it's just basically a link that kind of puts those two things together that have already been made.
Okay.
All right, right on.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. 1's fine.
All right, so the database will need to be able to store secure data. And
I think
all
I'll-
that
I think I'll
entails.
take this stuff down to the second page, so I'm not scrolling back up and down.
Okay.
Do. Just for the moment.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay.
So it's on the bottom.
Or,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, on the bottom. Got it. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so this basically is very broad. Um, the only real sensitive data that is going to be housed is user credentials, user information. Um, so there's not a lot of things that need to be encrypted, but definitely something that needs to be done. So shouldn't take too long. Within the database itself, basically just being able to store the data, period, and then be secure. So really, does this fall within the database section? It could be argued.
Yeah, I mean, this would be on the IT side.
Sure.
It's, you could have whole disk encryption
Sure.
where every file is encrypted, and they all have to be exposed via TPM or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really know.
That's fine. We'll just we can actually probably remove that story.
Yeah.
We'll just yeah, that's fine. That's more on the IT side. I think we've kind of covered
I
that.
think so. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so setting up users for the database, there will need to be just enough permissions given to the users in order to view the data they are authorized to view. So
Did you skip one?
Oh, I did. I apologize. A relationship model will need to be constructed so the data within the database can easily be traversed.
Okay.
So constructing the documents, I'm assuming we're doing Mongo, but
Yeah, I mean, that really makes it simple, but
right. So constructing the documents, creating the documents, including any attributes or anything like that, that would also need to be housed within the database. All of that can be done through an API as well, but depending on if we're using an API.
okay.
But yeah, so basically just a relationship model.
Yeah.
It should take some time, some consideration. Our application isn't entirely complex, but obviously there's still data that needs to be tied together.
Sure.
Okay.
So-
Well, we ready to vote?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, vote.
Not 113.
That's high.
Definitely not 113. So
Okay.
Well,
I guess
go ahead.
I said 40 because I thought if the searching for other websites and organizations within ours was going to be a 40, that this could potentially have all the same amount of nuances to it, especially when we're constructing our own database and we want all the data to be, well, nice enough for us to be able to go through it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I hear you.
Sure.
yeah, the logic isn't necessarily going to be stored in the database. So the search logic isn't something that's going to be part of this. So really, it's just constructing the database in a way that is is relationship driven and easy to search. So not the search itself, but to search.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I see.
Just having meaningful tables and names and stuff, and
Well, and I'll speak to this just briefly. Brooks and I just worked on a project, and there were several data models that we had to put together, and they were vastly more complex than this is, and it took us probably one night to do
yeah.
everything. So
Okay.
Yeah, and it still took some time and thought, and to be honest with you, we've missed some things that were later caught. But
we did, but that's I accounted for that in my estimation. I think you did too.
yeah, definitely.
Gotcha.
Definitely. So I know this isn't part of our recording, but we have 3.5 minutes until we have to start a new meeting. So
Oh, hooray.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just go through this quickly then. Can we? Because I can agree with a 13, or I can support a 13 the way that you guys
I
described
can
it.
as well. It's just a little above mine, so
okay. All right. There will need to be just enough permissions. Oh, okay. Yep. Just enough permissions given to the users in order to view the data they are authorized to view. So basically, just within the database, we have users that are set up. Not many, of course, but definitely one that would need to be for the admins, any other developers that would require access, and then also a general purpose
Yeah.
user for interacting through the interface.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to set that up. I mean, that's
Yeah, not too difficult.
2 users or something, and that's it.
Not too difficult.
Okay,
So-
so Brooks, you want to move your cursor down? There we go.
Yeah. 3,
ahead.
2, 1, go.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, this is just like I said. This is just the setting up of the users.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing other than that. It's not setting up the users and granting the roles.
Yeah, it takes like half an hour, maybe an hour. Depends how thorough you have to be.
Yeah, or if you're like me, you have to do it several times because for some reason MongoDB decides to delete your user or delete the role that they gave.
What I was kind of thinking was that if there was any kind of mapping between the users
Uh-huh.
that were submitted and the database users themselves. But if you're just using one user account for the entire API or whatever, then it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking one user. That way we don't have to worry about new users each time. And
Yeah.
In that case, I can support a 1.
okay,
Okay.
Let's just do
Same.
that.
okay with the one.
Yep.
All right. Proper authorization configuration will need to be established.
What's that mean?
Well, it needs to ensure that all logins and things like that are transferred back into the interface and decrypted so that authorization for each user can be established. Pretty simple.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops.
Ready?
Sure.
You have anything to say, Dan?
Well, I mean, it seems to me like that's building the authentication mechanism for each user, right?
Uh-huh.
Not those users that you just created, but
Correct.
for the actual users of the system.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, didn't we kind of cover that earlier with the hashes and all that?
Yeah, that could be argued that. Sure.
I mean, we could just take this out.
Okay.
I was wondering that.
Okay, cool.
So I'll send you guys a new invite, by the way. We have less than a minute. So.
Sounds good.
Okay. So combine. Okay, who wants to read this one?
An API will need to be developed in order to ensure proper communication between the database and the interface.
Okay.
This will take some time.
I don't know what happened.
So the API will take a significant amount of time.
Yes, it will.
Agreed.
A lot of configuration and a lot of additional data modeling that needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
Ready?
All right, ready?
I am actually not ready because my stuff messed up. But I'm about to be ready. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, awesome. 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably more right about that, Brooks. To be honest.
Really? Is that bad, huh?
Yeah, it is really where the meat of everything is. It is the most intense part of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, it is managing communication back and forth through everything, so.
Yeah, and it's not as simple as just saying, build me an API. Like it's
The most complicated part of the program.
yeah, it's extremely complicated.
Okay.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah. Sounds good.
This last one, I've been questioning whether or not it should be a story at all. It's more of a practice that the developers would just.
So when I was starting to put testing, I was referring to, I mean, of course you test throughout the period, but before you hit production, there's a final phase of make sure everything's working together.
So just unit tests. Is that what you're saying? Like test cases?
Like finalized testing. I mean, you could use unit tests for that, but like, you get a, there's the word,
Beta testing?
that's a good word for it. Sure. I mean, just testing that encompasses everything. A unit test is more like individual pieces. I'm thinking of a test that's like a system level test where it uses all the unit tests within it.
So you're thinking like a customer sign off kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, like the customer would like to review the application before just put it into production.
No, I'm talking about as a team, we test the product thoroughly to make sure it's all the dots, everything's dotted and working before we actually.
Well, here's the thing about Agile.
Yeah.
Is there's no documentation, there's no requirements.
Right.
So I'm not sure what you're going to be testing against.
Yeah, I guess I guess so. You're just making sure you have everything functioning is what I'm looking for, I guess.
And you're doing these incremental releases, so like every one of these stories will produce a deliverable that is maybe functional for the user or maybe not, but
They're all incremental internal builds that are
Okay.
created. And so with each sprint, you produce a build, and then basically the developers are responsible for their test-driven development. So they can either they can structure unit tests and they can make them automated or not. And so basically, as they're developing, they're able to test the functionality of the feature or the module that they're working on.
Mhm.
And if it passed the test, obviously that could go into that can be committed to the repository and as part of the build for that, that sprint. So whether or not and things will be broken, there will be defects in every single build. So not everything's going to be working 100% perfect in each build. So it's just when you finally have a major build and you've completed a several number of the stories that have your most complete picture, that's when you send it to production.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, testing is kind of. I get what you're saying, like where you want to have like some sort of approval process that says yes, it does comply, it is complete.
Right.
But that's really more of like what the product owner would do when they do like the retrospective or
the burn down meetings and things like that. They do a presentation to the customer itself too. So they do a demonstration. The sprint or however at whatever interval of time that they decide. They do a presentation and they show the user or the customer where they're at in production and all the different features that have been added or fixed or things like that. So, and that's when he gets more stories or he gets edits to stories and then he takes them back and adds them to the backlog.
So I think we can take the testing out.
Yeah, if it was done throughout, then I'd say that's fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, cool. So we have completed this document.
Probably got to throw our names on top somewhere, but yeah.
All right, Devin, you can stop recording, buddy.